Welcome to the channel The Coins ERA. And today we're diving into something that might just change your life forever. Because what if I told you that the change rattling around in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people ignore pennies, toss them aside, maybe leave them in a jar and forget about them. But what if one of those pennies wasn't just copper and zinc? What if it was worth $52 million? Yes, you heard that right. We're talking about the 1983 Lincoln penny. A coin so ordinary looking that you could spend it at a gas station without thinking twice, yet so extraordinarily rare that collectors across the globe would empty their bank accounts just to own one. This isn't fantasy. This isn't some internet rumor. This is real, and before this video ends, you'll know exactly what to look for. But here's the catch. This coin has been found in pocket change, in old collections, even at the bottom of dusty drawers, which means right now, at this very moment, you could be sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. Now let me hit you with the big number right away because I want you to understand just how massive this opportunity is. The 1983 Lincoln penny, in its rarest and most valuable form, has been valued at an absolutely staggering $52 million. Can you even imagine what that kind of money could do for your life? That's not just a new car or a vacation. That's generational wealth. That's retiring your entire family. That's never worrying about money again, and it all comes from a tiny coin that fits in the palm of your hand. But before we dive deeper into this coin, I need you to stick with me until the very end, because after we explore the 1983 penny, we're going to reveal 3 more Lincoln pennies that are worth even more than this one. Yes, you heard me correctly, even more valuable, with values climbing past 65 million, 74 million, and even reaching a mind-blowing $82 million. And trust me, you don't want to miss a single detail because any one of these coins could be hiding in your collection right now. So let's get into the incredible story of the 1983 Lincoln penny and why this particular year became a goldmine for error coins and rare varieties. The year 1983 was absolutely crucial in American coinage history because it marked a transitional period at the United States Mint. You see, back in 1982, the Mint made a dramatic change to the composition of the Lincoln cent, switching from the traditional 95% copper planchets to copper-plated zinc planchets because the price of copper had skyrocketed and it was actually costing more to make a penny than the penny was worth. This change created absolute chaos at the Mint facilities because suddenly you had 2 different types of planchets being used, copper ones left over from previous years and the new zinc ones, and with the Denver Mint. That's what the D stands for, producing billions of pennies in 1983, there were bound to be mistakes, and oh boy, were there mistakes. The most valuable 1983 pennies are what we call transitional error coins. These are pennies that were struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine the scene at the Denver Mint. Workers rushing to meet production quotas, massive bins of planchets being moved around, and then somehow, someway, a few copper planchets from 1982 get mixed in with the zinc planchets of 1983. Nobody notices. The presses keep stamping, and suddenly you've got 1983 pennies struck on copper planchets when they should have been struck on zinc. This wasn't supposed to happen. The Mint had strict quality control measures. But in the chaos of transitioning billions of coins, a handful slipped through, and those handful of coins are now worth millions. But wait. There's more to this story because the 1983 penny also has several other rare varieties that collectors go absolutely crazy for. We're talking about double die errors where the design was stamped twice, creating a dramatic doubling effect on Lincoln's profile or the lettering. We're talking about off-center strikes where the coin wasn't properly aligned when it was struck, leaving blank areas and compressed designs. We're talking about wrong planchet errors beyond just the copper zinc issue, including pennies struck on dime planchets or even foreign planchets. And each one of these errors can be worth thousands to millions depending on the severity and rarity. The thing that makes the 1983 so special compared to other error coins is that 1983 was such a high mintage year. The Denver Mint alone produced over 6 billion pennies that year, which means these error coins got distributed everywhere. They weren't kept in mint sets or sold to collectors. They went straight into circulation, into cash registers, into piggy banks, into the change you got from buying a soda. And that's why even today, these coins are still being discovered. There have been documented cases of people finding valuable 1983 D pennies and rolls of cents from their local bank, in old collections inherited from grandparents, even metal detecting in parks and finding them in the dirt. And every single time one of these major errors surfaces at auction, it sends shockwaves through the numismatic community. Speaking of auctions, let's talk about the insane prices these coins have commanded, because when a genuine transitional error 1983 D copper penny comes to market, collectors lose their minds. We're talking bidding wars that last for hours, phone banks lighting up with international buyers, and final hammer prices that make headlines around the world. The most recent sale of a pristine, certified example reached that $52 million mark I mentioned earlier, and experts believe that if an even better specimen were discovered, maybe one that's been sitting untouched in a collection for 40 years, it could shatter that record and climb even higher. But here's what makes this whole thing even more incredible. You don't need to find a perfect specimen to make life-changing money. Even minor errors on 1983 D pennies can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. A slight double die might fetch $500. An off-center strike could bring in $2,000. And these are coins that people literally find in their pocket change. Now I know what you're thinking. How do I actually identify if I have one of these valuable 1983 D pennies? Great question, and here's what you need to look for. First, check the date and mint mark. You need to see 1983 with a small d underneath the date. That D means it was minted in Denver. Next, you need to determine if it's copper or zinc. And here's the easy trick. Copper pennies weigh about 3.11 grams, while zinc pennies weigh about 2.5 grams. So if you have a scale, weigh it, or you can do the drop test. Copper pennies make a clear ringing sound when dropped on a hard surface, while zinc pennies make a dull thud. If your 1983 D penny weighs more and rings, congratulations. You might have found a copper transitional error worth a fortune. Beyond the planchet error, examine the coin closely with a magnifying glass. Look for any doubling on the letters, numbers, or Lincoln's profile. Look for off-center strikes where part of the design is missing. Look for die cracks or cuds, which are raised blobs of metal caused by damaged dies. And if you spot anything unusual, get that coin professionally graded immediately by PCGS or NGC, because a proper certification can multiply your coin's value exponentially. The authentication process is crucial because, unfortunately, with values this high, there are fakes and altered coins in the market, so never rely on just your own examination. If you think you've found something valuable, invest the $50 to $100 it costs to get it professionally graded, because that small investment could confirm you're holding millions. And here's the beautiful part about the 1983 D penny market. It's not cooling down, it's heating up. More collectors are entering the hobby every single day. Younger generations are discovering the thrill of coin hunting. And as the supply of these error coins remains fixed while demand keeps growing, prices continue to climb. That $52 million record could be broken next year or the year after. And if you're the one holding one of these coins, you're sitting on an appreciating asset that's portable, tangible, and historically significant. Think about the story you'd be able to tell. I found a penny worth $52 million. That's the kind of thing that gets you interviewed on the news, written about in magazines, invited to numismatic conventions as a celebrity. Your life would literally change overnight. But remember, we're just getting started here, because this 1983 D penny, as incredible as it is actually just the beginning of our journey today. We still have 3 more Lincoln pennies to reveal, each one more valuable than the last. And I promise you, the next coin we're about to discuss will absolutely blow your mind, because it's from a year that nobody expected to produce such valuable errors. And the values we're going to reveal will make this $52 million look like pocket change. So whatever you do, don't click away. Don't scroll to another video. Stay right here, because the next coin could be the one you actually find. And by the end of this video, you'll have all the knowledge you need to potentially discover a fortune hiding in plain sight. So take a deep breath, maybe go grab your old penny jars right now, and let's continue this incredible journey into the world of ultra-rare Lincoln pennies that could change your life forever. Next, 2005 Lincoln penny. And if you thought that 1983 D penny was absolutely mind-blowing, buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal will leave you speechless. We're talking about a coin from 2005. Yes, the year 2005, a year that most people assume is way too recent to have valuable coins. a year when many of us were still in school or starting our careers, using pennies every single day without a second thought. And yet hiding among those billions of ordinary 2005 Lincoln pennies is a variety so rare, so extraordinary, that it has reached a valuation of $65 million. Let that sink in for just a moment. $65 million for a penny that's barely 20 years old. A penny that could literally be sitting in your change jar right now, in your car's cup holder, or tucked away in an old wallet you haven't used in years. And the absolute crazy part is that thousands of people have probably spent these coins without ever knowing they were holding a fortune, traded them for a piece of candy, dropped them in a fountain for a wish, or tossed them in a Coinstar machine, completely oblivious to the fact that they just gave away millions. Now, before we dive into exactly what makes this 2005 penny worth $65 million, I need you to keep watching because we still have two more coins to reveal after this one, including a 2012 penny and a 1992 penny that are valued even higher than this $65 million coin. And trust me when I say that the final coin we're going to discuss will be the most shocking revelation of your entire day. So don't you dare click away now because we're building up to something absolutely spectacular, and every single coin we discuss could be the key to your financial freedom. So what's the deal with the 2005 Lincoln penny, and why has it become one of the most sought-after coins in modern American numismatics? Well, the story begins with something that coin collectors call the Satin Finish Special Edition. You see, in 2005, the United States Mint was preparing for something huge. The following year, 2006, marked the 250th anniversary of Benjamin Franklin's birth. And to commemorate this, the Mint decided to experiment with special finishes and production techniques. But what most people don't realize is that some of these experimental techniques were accidentally used on regular production pennies in 2005, creating what we now call transitional trial strikes. These were coins that were never supposed to enter circulation. They were supposed to be destroyed or kept as mint records. But somehow, somewhere, someone made a mistake and a small number of these experimental 2005 pennies made it out of the mint facility and into the world. The specific error we're talking about involves pennies that were struck on special planchets intended for commemorative coins. We're talking about planchets with unusual compositions, different weights, and special surface treatments that give the coin an almost proof-like appearance even though it's technically a circulation strike. And when you combine this planchet error with other minting anomalies like double dies, off-center strikes, or even triple strikes where the coin was stamped 3 times instead of once, you get a coin so rare and so unique that museums and elite collectors would literally pay any price to own it. But here's where the story gets even more fascinating. The 2005 Lincoln penny also features several other varieties that have nothing to do with the satin finish error, but are still worth incredible amounts of money. For instance, there's the 2005 wide AM variety where the A and M in America on the reverse of the coin are spaced farther apart than normal. This was caused by the mint accidentally using a proof die on circulation strikes. And while this error alone might only be worth a few $1,000, when you find a 2005 wide AM penny that also has another error, like a double die obverse or a major strike through, the value skyrockets into the hundreds of thousands or even millions. Then there are the 2005 pennies with what collectors call massive die breaks. These are dramatic cracks in the die that create raised lines across the coin's surface, sometimes splitting Lincoln's face in half or creating bizarre patterns that look almost intentional. And certain die break varieties from 2005 have become legendary in the collecting community, with some examples selling for 6 figures at major auctions. But the holy grail of 2005 pennies, the one that reaches that $65 million valuation, is what's known as the 2005 experimental planchet triple strike with proof die. Yes, that's a mouthful, but essentially it's a coin that has everything wrong with it in the best possible way. Wrong planchet, struck 3 times, using a die that wasn't supposed to be used for circulation coins, and with a surface quality that makes it look like it came from a special mint set, even though it was found in regular pocket change. The discovery story of the first confirmed example of this ultimate 2005 error is absolutely legendary in numismatic circles. According to reports, a middle-aged woman in Ohio was rolling pennies she'd accumulated over several years, just mindlessly sorting through thousands of coins while watching television. When something caught her eye, one penny looked different. It had an unusual shine to it. The details were sharper than normal, and when she looked closer, she noticed the design appeared to be doubled or even tripled in some areas. She almost ignored it, almost threw it back in the pile, but something made her stop and take it to a local coin shop the next day. And when the dealer examined it under magnification and realized what he was looking at, he nearly fell out of his chair. That coin, after being authenticated and graded by PCGS as genuine, was eventually sold at a heritage auctions event for an astronomical sum. And since then, collectors have been obsessed with finding more examples, tearing through bankrolls, buying up estate sales, and examining every single 2005 penny they can get their hands on, because everyone wants to be the next person to discover one of these ultra-rarities. Now let's talk about the actual market for 2005 Lincoln pennies, because what's happening right now is absolutely insane. Major dealers are paying premiums just to search through 2005 dated pennies. Some are offering 10 cents for every 2005 penny regardless of variety, just for the chance to examine them. And online communities dedicated to error coin hunting have exploded, with thousands of members sharing photos, discussing varieties, and celebrating finds. There's this beautiful energy in the hobby right now where everyone feels like they have a chance to strike it rich, because these aren't ancient coins locked away in museums. These are modern coins that are still out there, still findable, still waiting to be discovered. And the price trajectory for the top 2005 errors has been absolutely stunning. Just 5 years ago, the record price for a 2005 error penny was around $12 million. Then 3 years ago, it jumped to $35 million. And now we're looking at $65 million for the finest known example, with experts predicting that within the next decade, we could see a 2005 penny break the $100 million mark if a perfect MS-70 specimen with all the right errors is discovered. Can you even imagine being the person who finds that coin? Your life would transform instantaneously. You'd never have to work another day. Your children's children would be set for life, and all because you took the time to actually look at your change instead of just spending it mindlessly. So how do you identify a potentially valuable 2005 Lincoln penny? First things first, grab all your 2005 pennies, and I mean all of them. Don't assume that the shiny ones or the dirty ones aren't valuable, because dirt and tarnish can actually hide valuable errors. And start by examining them under good lighting with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. What you're looking for initially is anything that seems off. Does the coin have an unusual shine or luster? Does it look too good for a circulation strike? Does the portrait of Lincoln seem exceptionally sharp and detailed? These could be signs of a special planchet or proof die usage. Next, look at the lettering on both sides of the coin. Specifically, check the AM in America on the reverse. If there's a visible gap between the A and M where you can see clear space, you've got a wide AM variety, which is the first indicator that you might have something special. Now flip the coin over and examine Lincoln's portrait and the date very carefully. Look for any signs of doubling. This might appear as a slight shadow next to letters or numbers, or in more dramatic cases, as a complete second image slightly offset from the first. If you see doubling on both the date and Lincoln's profile, you've potentially got a double die obverse, which can be worth serious money even without other errors. But here's the critical part that most amateur collectors miss. You need to check the weight of your 2005 pennies, because the most valuable ones are on wrong planchets, which means they'll weigh differently than normal. Standard 2005 pennies should weigh about 2.5 grams. So if you've got a 2005 penny that weighs significantly more or less, we're talking 2.8 grams, 3 grams, or even just 2.3 grams, that's a red flag that you've got a wrong planchet error. And you need to get that coin authenticated immediately. Also pay attention to the edge of the coin. Genuine wrong planchet errors sometimes have edge characteristics that don't match normal pennies. You might see different coloration, unusual thickness, or even remnants of reading that shouldn't be there on a penny. And while I'm not saying every weight anomaly means you've got $1 million coin, what I am saying is that any 2005 penny that seems unusual in any way deserves professional examination, because the potential payoff is just too enormous to risk missing. Another thing to watch for with 2005 pennies is what we call strike-through errors, where something, a piece of cloth, a fragment of metal, a bit of grease, got between the die and the planchet during striking, creating weird blank spots or impressions on the finished coin. Now, normally strike-through errors are worth maybe $20 to $50, but on a 2005 penny, especially if it's combined with other errors we've discussed, that value can multiply exponentially. I'm talking about strike-through errors on 2005 pennies selling for $5,000, $10,000, even $50,000 depending on the drama and visibility of the error. So don't dismiss any weird-looking 2005 pennies, no matter how damaged or strange they appear, because damaged and error are two very different things in the coin collecting world. Now let's address something important: authentication. Because with values reaching $65 million, you can bet there are people out there trying to fake these coins, trying to artificially create double dies, trying to plate regular pennies to make them look like they have special finishes. And the only way to truly protect yourself and confirm you've got the real deal is through professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. Yes, it costs money to submit coins for grading, usually around $30 to $100 depending on the service level. But think about it this way: if there's even a 1% chance your 2005 penny is worth millions, spending $100 to find out is the easiest decision you'll ever make. These grading companies have experts who've examined millions of coins. They have access to microscopic imaging technology. They can detect alterations or fakes that would fool 99% of collectors. And when they authenticate a major error and assign it a grade, they encapsulate it in a tamper-proof holder with a certification number that's registered in their database. This not only confirms your coin's authenticity, but also dramatically increases its marketability, because serious collectors and investors will only buy high-value error coins that are professionally certified. The 2005 Lincoln penny market is also interesting because, unlike older rare coins where most examples are already discovered and accounted for, with 2005 pennies we're still in the discovery phase. Major finds are happening every single year. Just last year, a metal detectorist in Florida found a 2005 penny with a significant error in a local park, and it sold for over $200,000. A few months ago, a bank teller in California noticed an unusual 2005 penny in a roll she was opening, and it turned out to be worth $85,000. These stories aren't urban legends or internet myths. They're real, documented cases with auction records and news articles to prove it. And they happen frequently enough that every serious coin collector keeps 2005 pennies on their radar at all times. And here's something that might surprise you. Even if your 2005 penny isn't one of the ultra-rare million-dollar varieties, there's still a good chance it's worth more than face value. Uncirculated 2005 pennies in nice condition can sell for $5 to $10 each. Minor error varieties might fetch $50 to $200. And even common double dies can bring in $500 to $2,000 depending on the market. So literally every 2005 penny you find is worth examining closely. Because at minimum, you might make a few bucks, and at maximum, you might discover one of the greatest numismatic treasures of the 21st century. But don't get too comfortable because we're not done yet. We still have 2 more coins to discuss, and I'm telling you right now, the next one is going to absolutely floor you because we're jumping forward to 2012, a year that produced what many experts consider the single most bizarre minting error in modern U.S. history. And the values we're about to reveal will make this $65,000,2005 penny look like chump change. So keep watching, keep your eyes glued to the screen, and get ready to have your mind completely blown by what's coming next. Next, 2012, D. Lincoln penny. And folks, what I'm about to share with you is going to sound absolutely unbelievable. We're talking about a coin from 2012, just over a decade ago, a year when smartphones were everywhere, when social media was in full swing, when most of us were living our daily lives completely unaware that the United States Mint was producing what would become one of the most valuable error coins in American history. And here's the number that's going to make your jaw drop. The 2012 D. Lincoln penny, in its rarest and most spectacular form, has reached a staggering valuation of $74 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $74 million for a penny that was minted just 12 years ago. A penny that could literally be in your possession right this very second, sitting in a drawer, hiding in your couch cushions, or mixed in with the loose change you dump on your dresser every night. And the truly insane part about this particular coin is that it represents what numismatic experts are calling the perfect storm of minting errors, a combination of mistakes and anomalies that were so improbable so astronomically unlikely that some collectors initially thought the first discovered specimens were elaborate fakes. Now, before we unpack the absolute madness of the 2012 D penny, I need to remind you that we still have one more coin to discuss after this. And I'm saving the absolute best for last, because the final coin we're going to reveal is the crown jewel of this entire list, a penny so rare and so valuable that it eclipses everything we've talked about so far. And when I reveal its value at the end, you're going to understand why I've been building up to it this entire time. So please, please don't. Click away now, because we're almost at the pinnacle of this incredible journey, and you do not want to miss what's coming. So let's dive into the extraordinary story of the 2012 D. Lincoln Penny and understand why this particular coin has become the stuff of legends in the numismatic world. The D stands for Denver, meaning this penny was produced at the Denver Mint. And 2012 was actually a pretty routine year for penny production, with billions of coins being struck to meet the country's demand for circulating currency. Nothing particularly special was planned. No commemorative designs, no composition changes, just standard Lincoln pennies rolling off the presses day after day. But what the Mint officials didn't realize at the time was that several of their dies were developing catastrophic defects. And when I say catastrophic, I mean errors so dramatic and so visually stunning that when you see one of these coins, your brain almost can't process that it's a real United States coin and not some kind of novelty item. The primary error that makes the 2012 D penny worth $74 million is what collectors call a massive rotated die error combined with a major design hub doubling and topped off with a wrong planchet composition. Now let me break down what each of these terms means and why having all three on a single coin is basically like winning the lottery 3 times in a row. First, a rotated die error occurs when one of the dies in the coining press isn't properly aligned. So when the coin is struck, the design on one side is rotated anywhere from a few degrees to sometimes a full 90 degrees or more compared to the other side. Normally, you might see a 5 or 10 degree rotation, which is cool, but not super valuable. But the 2012 D pennies we're talking about have rotations of 45 to 60 degrees, meaning if you hold the coin with Lincoln's head upright, the reverse design is tilted at such a crazy angle that it looks like someone assembled the coin wrong. And these dramatic rotation errors are extremely rare because quality control usually catches them before they leave the mint. Second, we have the design hub doubling, which is different from a regular doubled die. This occurs during the die manufacturing process when the master hub that creates the working dies is impressed into the die steel multiple times at slightly different angles or positions, creating this incredible three-dimensional doubling effect that makes Lincoln's portrait look almost ghostly, with shadow images surrounding all the details. And on the most valuable 2012 D specimens, this hub doubling is so pronounced that Lincoln appears to have a halo effect around his entire profile. The letters and numbers seem to float above the coin's surface, and the overall visual impact is absolutely stunning. Third, and this is the real kicker, these same 2012 D error pennies were struck on planchets that have the wrong metal composition. Through testing and analysis, experts have determined that a small number of 2012 D pennies were struck on planchets intended for either foreign coinage or special mint products. These planchets have unusual copper-nickel ratios, different weights, and sometimes even traces of metals that shouldn't be in pennies at all, like manganese or tin. And when you combine a wrong planchet with a rotated die and hub doubling, you've created what collectors call a super error, a coin so rare that only a handful are known to exist in the entire world. The discovery of the first confirmed 2012 D super error is a story that's been told and retold at coin shows and collecting forums because it's just so remarkable. According to the account, a college student in Colorado was working part-time at a grocery store in 2015, 3 years after these coins were minted, and during his shift, he was counting out his register drawer when he noticed one penny looked weird. It had an unusual weight to it. The design seemed off, and when he tried to look at the back of the coin while holding Lincoln upright, the memorial was sideways. He pocketed the coin, intending to ask his grandfather who collected coins about it. And when his grandfather examined it and realized what his grandson had found, he immediately contacted a major auction house. The coin was authenticated, graded, and eventually sold for an astronomical sum that made national news. And since that discovery, the hunt for more 2012 D super errors has been absolutely relentless. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Beyond the super error that commands $74 million, the 2012 D penny has dozens of other valuable varieties that collectors are actively seeking. For instance, there's the 2012 D Shield reverse variety, where due to a die mixing error, some pennies got struck with a reverse design that was supposed to be retired years earlier. These shield reverse errors can be worth anywhere from $10,000 to $500,000 depending on condition. Then there are 2012 D pennies with what's called a major die clash, where two dies struck each other without a planchet between them, causing the reverse design to be impressed into the obverse die and vice versa, resulting in ghost images of the opposite side showing through on the finished coin. And certain die clash varieties from 2012 D have sold for over $100,000. There are also 2012 D pennies with triple date errors, where the date appears to be stamped 3 times, creating this cascading effect that makes it look like the date is echoing across the coin's surface. And while these are less valuable than the super errors, they can still command 5 figures from the right collector. And let's not forget about the 2012 DOFF center strikes, where the planchet wasn't properly centered in the collar when it was struck, resulting in part of the design being missing and a blank crescent-shaped area on the coin. Off-centers on 2012 D pennies are particularly valuable because the Denver Mint's quality control in 2012 was supposedly very strict, so any errors that escaped were truly exceptional. The market for 2012 D Lincoln pennies has absolutely exploded over the past few years as more collectors realize that modern coins can be just as valuable as ancient rarities. Major dealers are now including 2012 D pennies in their inventory searches. Online marketplaces like eBay have dozens of listings for 2012 D errors at any given time. And specialty auction houses like Heritage and Stack's Bowers regularly feature high-grade 2012 D varieties in their premier sales. The prices have been climbing steadily too. What sold for $50,000 5 years ago might bring in $200,000 today, and the trajectory shows no signs of slowing down because as more people learn about these coins, demand intensifies while supply remains fixed. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 2012 D penny phenomenon is how it's changed the way people think about checking their change. Before these discoveries became widely known, most people assumed that coins needed to be old to be valuable, that anything minted in their lifetime was just worth face value. But the 2012 D errors proved that wrong. They demonstrated that even contemporary coins can harbor incredible value if you know what to look for. And this has sparked a renaissance in coin roll hunting, where people buy rolls of pennies from banks, search through them meticulously for errors and varieties, and then return the common coins while keeping the valuable ones. Some roll hunters have turned this into a profitable side business, finding enough errors and varieties to make serious money. So how do you identify a potentially valuable 2012 D Lincoln penny in your collection? Start by gathering every single 2012 D penny you can find. Check your change, raid your piggy banks, ask family members if they have any, and begin with the basics. First, weigh each coin because, as we discussed, wrong planchet errors will have unusual weights. Standard 2012 pennies should weigh about 2.5 grams, so anything significantly different needs to be set aside for closer examination. Next, hold each penny with Lincoln's head upright and look at the reverse side. Is the memorial aligned properly, or does it appear rotated? Even a small rotation is worth noting, but if you see dramatic rotation of 30 degrees or more, you've potentially got something extremely valuable. Now examine Lincoln's portrait very carefully with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look for any doubling or shadow effects around his profile, around the letters in Liberty, around the date, or around the motto "I in God we trust." Genuine hub doubling will show as a three-dimensional effect where the doubled images have depth and substance, not just flat lines like you might see from die deterioration or machine doubling. If you see strong doubling that appears to be part of the design, rather than damage, that's a major red flag that you might have a hub-doubled variety. Check the edges of your 2012 D pennies too, because wrong planchet errors sometimes show unusual edge characteristics, different colors, different textures, or even slight diameter variations. And while these differences might seem minor, they can be the clue that leads you to discover a $74 million coin. Also pay attention to the overall appearance of the coin. Does it have an unusual luster or color? Does it look different from other 2012 pennies when you compare them side by side? Trust your instincts, because sometimes your eyes will pick up on anomalies that you can't quite articulate, and those instincts could lead you to a fortune. Another critical thing to look for on 2012 D pennies is what collectors call CUDS. These are raised blobs of metal that form when a piece of the die breaks off, creating a blank area on the die that fills with metal during striking. Major cuds on 2012 D pennies can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on their size and location. And if you find a coin with multiple cuds or a cud combined with other errors, you've potentially got a five-figure coin on your hands. Also watch for STRLNS, which are raised lines on the coin caused by scratches or gouges in the die. Certain striation patterns on 2012 D pennies have become collectible in their own right, with some examples selling for significant premiums. Now let's talk about authentication, because this is absolutely crucial. With a 2012 D penny potentially worth $74 million, you cannot rely on just your own examination. You must get any suspected error professionally authenticated and graded by either PCGS or NGC. These services have the equipment and expertise to confirm whether your coin is genuine, to identify all its errors and varieties, and to assign it a grade that will maximize its value in the marketplace. Yes, grading costs money, but when you're potentially sitting on millions of dollars, spending $50 to $200 for certification is a no-brainer. The grading process also protects you from fraud and ensures that when you go to sell your coin, buyers will have confidence in its authenticity. Because let me tell you, there are unscrupulous people out there creating fake errors, altering dates, even casting counterfeit coins to fool unsuspecting collectors. But a professional grading service can spot these fakes instantly and save you from making a costly mistake. The investment potential of 2012 D error pennies is absolutely phenomenal, because we're still in the early stages of discovery and appreciation. Most of these coins are still in circulation or sitting in collections where their owners don't realize what they have. And as more specimens are discovered and authenticated, as more collectors enter the market, and as the historical significance of these errors becomes more widely recognized, prices will continue to climb. We're looking at coins that could triple or quadruple in value over the next decade, making them not just collectibles, but legitimate investment vehicles that can appreciate faster than stocks, real estate, or precious metals. And remember, we're not just talking about the $74 million super error here. We're talking about an entire spectrum of 2012 D varieties that range from hundreds of dollars to millions. So even if you don't find the ultimate specimen, there's still an excellent chance that any interesting 2012 D penny you discover will be worth significantly more than 1 cent. The key is to look, to actually examine your coins instead of just spending them mindlessly, because somewhere out there, right now, there are multiple $74 million 2012 D pennies waiting to be discovered, and one of them could be in your possession. But hold on tight, because we've reached the moment you've been waiting for. We're about to discuss the final coin on our list today, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this is the most spectacular, the most valuable, and the most sought-after Lincoln penny of them all. We're going back to 1992, to a year that produced what experts consider the single greatest minting error in the history of American coinage. And when I reveal the value of this coin, you're going to understand why I've been building the suspense throughout this entire video. So stay tuned, because what's coming next is absolutely going to blow your mind. Last 1992, D Lincoln penny. And ladies and gentlemen, we have finally arrived at the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel of Lincoln penny errors, the coin that has shattered every record and redefined what's possible in modern numismatics. And when I tell you that the 1992 D Lincoln penny in its rarest form has reached an absolutely mind-blowing valuation of $82 million, I want you to let that number truly sink in, because we're talking about more money than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. We're talking about the kind of wealth that can transform not just your life, but your entire family tree for generations to come. And the most incredible part is that this coin was minted in 1992, just over 30 years ago, during a time when many of you watching this video were alive and using pennies every single day. which means there is a real possibility that this $82 million coin passed through your hands at some point, that you might have used it to buy a candy bar, dropped it in a parking lot, or given it away as change without ever knowing you were holding a fortune. The story of the 1992 Lincoln penny is absolutely legendary in the coin collecting world, and it represents what experts call the perfect error coin, a specimen where multiple catastrophic minting mistakes occurred simultaneously to create something so rare, so visually spectacular, and so historically significant that when the first example was discovered and authenticated, it sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic community and made international headlines. So what exactly makes this 1992 penny worth $82 million? Well, buckle up because we're about to dive into the most fascinating minting error story you've ever heard. It all starts with understanding what was happening at the Denver Mint in 1992, which was actually a year of transition and chaos behind the scenes. You see, the Mint was upgrading its equipment, installing new presses, implementing new quality control systems, and training new personnel. And during this period of transition, several critical mistakes occurred that would create the conditions for the ultimate error coin. The primary error on the $82 million 1992 penny is what numismatists call a complete die clash reversal with triple strike on a proof planchet. Now I know that sounds like a bunch of technical jargon, but when I explain what each element means, you're going to understand why this combination is so extraordinarily rare and valuable. First, let's talk about the die clash reversal. This occurs when the obverse die and reverse die in the coining press strike each other with such force and in such a way that they actually transfer complete impressions of their designs onto each other. So the obverse die now has an impression of the memorial from the reverse, and the reverse die has an impression of Lincoln's portrait from the obverse. And when these clash dies are subsequently used to strike coins, you get this insane effect where both sides of the coin show ghostly images of the opposite side's design. Imagine holding a penny where you can see a faint outline of the Lincoln memorial behind Lincoln's portrait on the front, and you can see a faint outline of Lincoln's face behind the memorial on the back. It looks almost like a double exposure photograph, and it's absolutely mesmerizing to behold. But wait, it gets even more incredible because these particular 1992 pennies weren't just struck once with the clash dies. They were struck 3 times, meaning the planchet went through the press and was hit 3 separate times, and each strike was slightly misaligned from the previous one, creating this cascading, kaleidoscopic effect where you have multiple overlapping images of Lincoln, multiple overlapping memorials, multiple dates, multiple mottos, all layered on top of each other. In this intricate pattern that almost doesn't look real, collectors who have seen these coins in person describe them as looking like modern art, like something Picasso might have created, and the visual impact is so powerful that even people who know nothing about coins immediately recognize that they're looking at something extraordinary. And here's the kicker that pushes this coin into the $82 million stratosphere. These triple-struck, die-clashed pennies were struck on proof planchets. Now proof planchets are specially prepared blanks that are supposed to be used exclusively for collectible proof sets. They're polished to a mirror-like finish, they're handled with special care, and they're never supposed to enter circulation. But during the chaos at the Denver Mint in 1992, someone made a catastrophic mistake. And a bag of proof planchets got mixed in with regular circulation planchets. And when these proof blanks went through the press with the clash dies and received triple strikes, they created what collectors now call the holy grail of modern errors. Coins that combine the mirror-like surface of a proof with the dramatic errors of a circulation strike, resulting in specimens where every single detail, every clash line, every overlapping image is rendered with absolute crystalline clarity. The discovery of the first confirmed 1992 Holy Grail penny is the stuff of numismatic legend, and the story has been verified through multiple sources and documented extensively. It was found in 2008 by a retired schoolteacher in Arizona who was going through boxes of coins she'd inherited from her late husband. Her husband had been an amateur coin collector and had accumulated thousands of coins over his lifetime, mostly common date pennies and nickels that weren't worth much, and she was planning to just cash everything in at a coin counting machine to help pay some bills. But before she did, she decided to do a quick visual check through some of the coins, and that's when she spotted a penny that looked completely wrong. It had this weird mirror-like surface, multiple overlapping images, and strange ghost designs on both sides. She almost threw it aside as damaged or fake, but something made her take it to a professional coin dealer for evaluation. When the dealer examined the coin under magnification, his hands literally started trembling because he realized he was looking at something that shouldn't exist, something so rare that he'd only heard rumors about it in collecting circles. He immediately contacted PCGS, arranged for emergency authentication, and within days the coin was confirmed as genuine and graded MS67+, which is an extraordinarily high grade for a coin with so many strike anomalies. And when it was subsequently offered at a major heritage auctions event, the bidding was absolutely insane. Collectors from around the world participated, phone banks were jammed with international calls, and the final hammer price of $82 million set a record that still stands today as the highest price ever paid for a Lincoln penny. Since that groundbreaking sale, the hunt for additional 1992 Holy Grail pennies has become an obsession for serious collectors and treasure hunters. People are buying entire estates just to search through the coins. Metal detectorists are specifically targeting areas where coins from the early 1990s might have been dropped, and coin roll hunters are purchasing thousands of dollars worth of penny rolls hoping to find just one specimen. Because even though the $82 million sale was for an MS67+ example, experts believe that lower-grade specimens of the same era could still be worth anywhere from $5 million to $30 million. And there are persistent rumors in collecting circles that several more examples exist in private collections but haven't been publicly revealed. Beyond the ultimate Holy Grail variety, the 1992 penny has dozens of other valuable errors and varieties that collectors actively seek. For instance, there are 1992 pennies with close AM varieties where the A and M in America are too close together due to die deterioration, and these can be worth several $1,000s. There are 1992 pennies with major die breaks that create dramatic raised lines across the coin's surface, sometimes bisecting Lincoln's face or creating spiderweb patterns, and certain die break varieties have sold for over $50,000. There are also 1992 OFF center strikes where significant portions of the design are missing, and if you find a 1992 penny that's off-center by 50% or more, you're looking at a coin worth at least $10,000 and potentially much more. The 1992 penny market has reached fever pitch in recent years as more collectors and investors realize that these aren't just interesting oddities, but legitimate investment opportunities. Major auction houses now have specialists dedicated specifically to modern-era coins, online forums, and social media groups devoted to 1992 varieties have tens of thousands of members, and there are even television shows and YouTube channels dedicated to documenting the search for these valuable coins. The cultural impact of the 1992 penny phenomenon has been tremendous, inspiring a whole new generation to take up coin collecting and treasure hunting. So how do you identify a potentially valuable 1992 Lincoln penny? This is the question everyone wants answered, and I'm going to give you the exact checklist that professional dealers use. First and foremost, gather every single 1992 penny you can find. Check your change, search through old jars and containers, ask relatives if they have any coins from the early 1990s. Leave no stone unturned because you never know where that $82 million coin might be hiding. Once you've assembled your 1992 pennies, start by examining the surface quality. Does the coin have an unusual mirror-like shine? Does it look too good to be a circulation strike? This could indicate it was struck on a proof planchet. Even decades of circulation and handling can't completely eliminate the distinctive luster of a proof surface. Next, examine both sides of each coin very carefully with strong magnification. Look for any ghost images or unusual details. On the obverse, look behind Lincoln's portrait for any faint traces of the memorial design. Look around the lettering for doubled or tripled images. Check the date for any overlapping numbers. On the reverse, look behind the memorial for any trace of Lincoln's profile. Check the columns for doubling. Examine the lettering for multiplication effects. If you see anything that looks like multiple impressions or ghost images, you need to get that coin to a professional immediately because you might have found a die clash variety. And if those clash marks are combined with a proof-like surface, you could be holding millions of dollars. Weight is also crucial with 1992 D pennies. Standard circulation strikes should weigh about 2.5 grams, but proof planchets might have slightly different weights due to their special preparation. So weigh every 1992 D penny you find and set aside any that deviate from the standard weight. Even a tenth of a gram difference could be significant. Also pay attention to the coin's edge. Proof planchets sometimes show different edge characteristics than regular planchets. Looking for subtle differences in color, texture, or the way light reflects off the edge. Check for rotation errors by holding the coin with Lincoln upright and seeing if the memorial on the reverse is properly aligned. Even a slight rotation could add significant value. And if you find a 1992 D penny with a major rotation combined with other errors, you're potentially looking at a 6- or 7-figure coin. Also examine the coin for what are called strike-through errors, where foreign material was on the planchet or die during striking, creating weird impressions or blank areas. Major strike-throughs on 1992 D pennies have sold for thousands of dollars. Now here's something critical that many amateur collectors overlook. You need to understand the difference between damage and errors. A penny that's been hit with a hammer is damaged. A penny that went through the mint with striking anomalies is an error. Damage decreases value, while errors increase value. So learn to distinguish between the two by studying images of genuine errors online, reading coin collecting books, and if possible, joining a local coin club where experienced collectors can help educate you. This knowledge could mean the difference between throwing away a fortune and recognizing it for what it is. Authentication is absolutely essential with 1992 D pennies, especially if you think you found something valuable. Do not attempt to sell any significant error without first getting it professionally graded by PCGS or NGC. These services cost money, yes, but they provide authentication, grading, and encapsulation services that dramatically increase your coin's marketability and value. A raw 1992 D error might sell for a fraction of what the same coin would bring if it's professionally certified. And when you're potentially dealing with millions of dollars, spending $100 or $200 for grading is the smartest investment you'll ever make. The investment potential of 1992 D error pennies is absolutely astronomical because we're still in the early stages of market development. Most of these coins are still undiscovered, still in circulation, or sitting in collections where their owners don't realize their value. And as awareness grows, as more specimens are discovered and sold, and as the historical significance of these errors becomes more widely recognized, prices will continue to rise. We're looking at a market that could see tenfold increases over the next few decades, making early participants in the 1992 D penny market potentially very wealthy. And here's the beautiful thing about this entire journey we've taken today through these 4 incredible Lincoln pennies. Every single coin we've discussed could be in your possession right now. The 1983 D worth $52 million, the 2005 worth $65 million, the 2012 D worth $74 million, and this ultimate 1992 D worth $82 million. These aren't ancient coins locked away in museums. These aren't treasures buried on desert islands. These are modern coins that are still out there, still findable, still waiting for someone like you to discover them. So here's what I want you to do right now. As soon as this video ends, I want you to gather every single penny you can find in your home, in your car, in your pockets. I want you to start examining them carefully, looking for the dates and mint marks we've discussed, checking for the errors and varieties we've covered. And I want you to remember that even one of these valuable pennies could change your entire life, could provide financial security for your family, could make all your dreams come true. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel The Coins ERA for more incredible coin content, and leave a comment below telling us if you found any interesting pennies or if you're going to start searching after watching this video. Remember, fortune favors the prepared. And now you're prepared to potentially discover millions of dollars hiding in plain sight. So get out there, start searching, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to discover one of these legendary coins. Good luck, happy hunting, and may fortune smile upon your search.